Right. The articles of importance in today's discussion are these. The first thing is, what are the takeaways from the Obama visit? So, with regard to this center page, what are the important issues we need to understand? What are the progress we made in our recent Obama's visit? And the second important article is, what are the Chinese reactions to the Obama's visit? And what is the expression of President Obama on the religious freedom in India? And what is the importance and essence of maintaining the diversity? That's what is the third article. And fourth, we are going through international news, especially the Cuban and American relationships. So the 1961, the breakdown of relationships between US and Cuba after the Cuban Missile Crisis. So now they have started the renegotiations. Let us see what are the objectives of that. And on the developmental issues, there is a study that Somalian children facing starvation we need to understand. And with regard to geographical phenomenon, so a research project talks about urban heat island effect. So the average temperatures of the urban areas are increasing in India. On the economic front, the decline of rupee, the fall in value of rupee to 61 rupees 86 against the dollar. That is one of the important aspects in this news today. So first thing is, coming to the takeaways from the Obama visit, this is what is the central article. So it majorly talks about this. The Indo-US relations on the defense side, they saw a huge progress. The first thing is the military cooperation. On the front of the military cooperation and strategic areas, there is renewal of this particular 10 years framework for US-India defense relationship. When Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was the defense minister during the UPA 1 government, so we made an important defense deal. And now we have renewed this defense deal during the Obama visit. Along with this, we have included the co-production of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, which are creating havoc in Afghanistan and the Pakistan terror theater. And after that, so the specialized equipment for military transport aircraft and establishment of certain contact groups for the co-development of jet engines, development of aircraft carrier systems, upgrading the common annual naval exercises. All these have become the agenda of the defense cooperation. The most important among them is, one thing is, previously we had between US and India a buyer-seller relationship, US being the seller and India being the buyer. Now we have shifted as like in US-Russia, India-Russia defense relations. Similarly with US also, from seller-buyer relation to co-production relationship. That is what is one important thing with regard to the today's news. And second thing is, the establishment of hotline between the Prime Minister of India and President of United States, that shows the deepening of the relationships on both the sides. And the second important factor is, on the nuclear issues, India has seen strong progress. Though the details are not clear as of now, what it shows is there is whatever the roadblock which we have, especially on the making of right to recourse, making of the seller liable for the accident. That's one of the things which US was not interested in. So India has proposed for the insurance pool to mitigate the investment risks. So however, American companies will have a final say in this. But however, there is the particular roadblock is cleared with regard to the Indo-US defense ties, Indo-US nuclear ties, I'm sorry about that. And third thing is, there is this major irritant to China over here. There are two major irritants which are being discussed to China. So the Indian and the US joint statement says that it calls for a freedom of navigation and overflight the freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea. Already we have discussed in our class what is the conflict related to South China Sea. Now again, so the freedom of navigation and overflight in South China Sea, which the joint statement has asserted, it has seen as against to China's interests, because China is already claiming the sovereign right over the South China Sea. And the second thing is, the Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, in his previous term, he proposed for an alliance between US, Japan, India and Australia, which is called Quad. So it is presumed that as of now, the Quad discussion also appeared between Mr. President Obama and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh talks. So track 2 Quad Plus dialogue is also scheduled for the next week between the various civil society organizations in Indonesia, the Bali in Indonesia. So these are the two worrying points for the China. But however, China externally it appeared to be assertive, and it says that it is just symbolic and nothing practical or pragmatic in the Obama's visit. And on the last day, and one more thing with regard to counter-terrorism, the President Obama, he was very critical about Lashkar-e-Toiba and other terrorist organizations operating from the soil of Pakistan. And on the women's rights and religious freedoms, so he considered them as, especially with regard to the BJP government and few people in BJP proposing for anti-conversion laws. So at the right time, the President Obama has emphasized the role of religious freedoms and women's rights in his address to the people at the City Fort Auditorium. So these are the various things which are carry home points. In a nutshell, what we need to remember with regard to Obama is concerned. The first thing is, so the topic is the takeaways from the Obama visit. The first thing is progress on the strategic agenda, the Indo-US strategic defense relationship, and the second thing is the China factor. So with regard to Quad and also the joint statement on South China Sea and counter-terrorism operation, and especially establishment of military courts in Pakistan to take up the trial of terrorist activities, and the Obama's emphasis on women's rights and religious freedom. These are the carry home points for us with regard to this. Now in another article, the newspaper talks about the Chinese reaction to America and the American president visit to India. So the Chinese news agency, what it specifically says is this: Obama's visit is more symbolic rather than practical. What it says is there are many disjoints between India and United States of America. One is being India's Food Security Act and Indian agriculture and US agricultural subsidies, which are a majorly confrontational point between these two nations. And added to that, the climate change talks, which are another major problem for Indo-US relationships. So what your China newspaper Xinhua says is this: so in the failure of Obama's Asia's pivot, so this particular visit is to symbolize or to show to the Congress there is certain progress on the Obama's Asia's pivot. So that's what has been a major this thing. And it also sees this President Obama's visit as a part of the strategy of United States to contain the rise of China. These are the things we need to understand. And another important editorial is Obama and religious freedom. This article, what it says is the Obama's views on diversity of beliefs and faiths and the need to uphold the constitutionally guaranteed rights to freedom of religion has come from understanding, that is, the major understanding of the need of cultural pluralism from the Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi's thoughts. So we all know that Obama keeps Gandhiji's photograph and he educates his children about the Gandhian ideas. The central to this is the achievement of equity and peace in a non-violent way. So in this case, the Obama's ultimate speech or ultimate take-home point from the speech is, so the cultural pluralism, religious diversity has to be seen from the universal humanism, the thoughts of universal humanism. It means that the goal of every religion or every faith is to enable compassion and empathy in the human affairs. So what are the take-home terminology here? Universal humanism, cultural pluralism, religious diversity. These are the take-home points. So from that perspective, the ultimate objective of our goal is to enable compassion and empathy in the human affairs. And next is, so to end an US embargo, Mr. Raul Castro, what he says in Cuba, that's what is the next important article is. So it says that the US-Cuba relations, Cuba has in recent dialogue, it has kept certain restrictions over here. What it says is, first, to take forward the relationships, Cuba demands for an end to the ban or embargo imposed by the United States and its allies. And the Guantanamo, where US maintains its terroric prison, it has to be returned to Cuba. And the third thing is, the Havana, the Cuba has to be removed from the terror list. So these are the three major demands between the US and Cuba delegation discussions. And after this, the next one is the sharp rise in the heat waves in the urban areas. With regard to this topic, the urban heat island effect, so this was in 2006-07, it was a central concept of discussion, and it was also a previous question in the UPSC. So what is this urban heat island effect? I will discuss with separate topic for you. And rupee down to 45 paise, so that means down by 45 paise. It shows that the value of the rupee is declining. So what are the factors for this decline of the rupee? That's what we need to understand. And also, what is the impact of the decline of the rupee vis-a-vis dollar? So what is going to have its impact on our imports and exports? Try to understand that from your regular class of economy. So these are the things we need to understand from today's newspaper. So again, these are the things.